Well, it turns out that L.A. County courts are going to eliminate more than 500 jobs this week. 500. 500. Because they're expecting an $85 million shortfall in the budget for the next fiscal year. Last Friday, they hand-delivered layoff notices to 511 court positions that were being eliminated. We have tens of thousands of people, and they're clogged in a court system. And then I'm getting this story today that says we're going to lose another 500 people. I'm telling you, by this, I'll be seeing the judge like in 2015. There it is. That's my take on why the slashing of court jobs is not going to be a good thing. But I want to get Peter Mathews in a moment to tell us what he thinks about all this.
Your voice, KTLK AM 1150.
You've never heard it. As a matter of fact, Mondo, Victor Brick, and I did three-part harmony. So you just have to tune in to really enjoy that. Right now, though, I want to talk to the man who's got the answers. He's the man with the plan, Peter Mathews, professor, political science, Cypress College, our commentator on the stories we've been rapping about with our audience this afternoon, Professor, and that has to do with this offer by Senator Barbara Boxer. She says, we won't take pay until we raise the debt ceiling. How close, really, is Congress to raising the debt ceiling? I mean, we've been in the sequester mode for weeks, and I think we all just got used to it.
Oh, yeah. I'd say that Congress has to raise the debt ceiling, and Barbara Boxer is more like a symbolic threat because that's not going to pass as far as suspending their pay. But the Congress will do it because of the fear they have that it might actually cost the U.S. its credit rating, like it did before back in 2011. Our credit rating went way down when they had a debt ceiling crisis. It lasted too long. And it's cost us billions of dollars more in increased interest, the federal government, that is. So I think they will definitely raise the debt ceiling. It'll take some time and work, though.
All right. There's a lot on their plate, certainly. And I've made a big deal about how this is the richest Congress in the history of this country. Does this just go to affirm what you and I have talked about before, and that is how special interests have turned Congress into quite a business?
Oh, absolutely, Dave. I call it dollar democracy. As I told you, I've got a book coming out on it. Mm-hmm. Dollar democracy with liberty and justice for some. We got to get the American dream. We've got to bring back the American dream for all. And this Congress being, bought and paid for by and large is a real problem. We've got to go to, I say the suggestion that the reform we have to have is public financing of elections, voluntary, like they do in Maine and Arizona. 2 states actually have it. A few more states have added it. But it's a very interesting system where if you want to run for office in Maine, the state of Maine, say state assembly, you have to go out and collect 100 signatures from 100 people in your district, and then $5 from each of them. And that's just symbolic because you turn the $5 each, $500 total, to the Election Commission of Maine, and they put you on the ballot automatically, and the government writes you a check to run your campaign, several $1,000s. And you have to promise not to take any private money, Dave. And 80% of the Maine legislature were elected from regular people, for teachers and auto mechanics and plumbers and educators and other people and the businessmen. They got elected, and they were able to bring in the right policies. So Congress needs to get that kind of bill in place. Otherwise, it's going to be dollar democracy, and we can see how Americans are suffering.
Professor, we've tried to get election reform, campaign reform for so long, and they make these half-hearted attempts. Do you really think we're going to see this happen?
Only if the American people rise up and make phone calls and emails and go right to the congressperson's office and hold rallies and protests saying, we the people have to be the priority for Congress because that's what the Constitution requires. And yet they're not doing it. I mean, we've got a tremendous amount of unemployment still. Unemployment rate just went up, by the way, by 0.1%. That's a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And the economy's not growing. As you saw, the Business Roundtable CEOs themselves admitted to sitting on $2 trillion worth of profits that they have because they don't want to invest. They're afraid that the investment won't pay off. And there's a real problem because they want the politicians to settle their differences, to balance the budget, and to come up with real personal, proper policies, or they won't really invest in America. And that's a problem for small business as well.
And so let's talk about that, because when they were asked what were the 2 biggest challenges that we face to get this economy humming again, they mentioned sales and financing. And I could not have said it better, because every small business owner I speak to says I need more customers, and then I need access to capital so that I can grow my business. And it seems like we're working against small businesses rather than working with them.
Absolutely, and yet small business employs 2/3 of our people in America. So we need to bring in some capital for small business through what I would call either a state bank, like in North Dakota, Dave. Have you heard of that? It's the only state in the union with a state bank.
No, I did not. No, I did not.
It's a great bank. It actually brings in money for the state government by lending money out, making it easy for small business to borrow money at very low interest rates. And they grow the economy there. And then when they get paid back with a small amount of interest, the state bank brings in millions of dollars, about $70 million a year for the North Dakota state government. We could have a state bank here in California, and we could have a federal one as well that would lend out money to small business at a very low interest rate without requiring these huge amounts of capital. You have to put up your house as a collateral when you get a loan these days.
Absolutely, and children.
And we can't. Not all businessmen can do that.
Yeah, well, you missed my good punch. And kids, you got to put up your kids. All right, let's move on to the courts slashing 500 jobs. Now, admittedly, some of these jobs are going to be lost or cut off through attrition. But let's really talk about. I shared a story about I'm having to wait until October to see a judge on a simple traffic matter. I mean, when people are waiting for justice and to have to sit there for months. Is this something tolerable in Southern California, that courts are getting hit right where it hurts more, the budget?
No, it's because justice delayed, it can be justice denied, in a sense. It's just not right theoretically and also in practice. And we need to move this forward by bringing the money back into the courts. The Los Angeles Superior Court's cutting $85 million, and that's 500 jobs, like you said. And Jerry Brown, the governor, is only going to restore about 21 million of that. That's not even nearly enough. You know what Judge David Wesley said, the presiding judge said? These awful reductions as access to justice are brought by the state funding cuts. So he called it reductions in access to justice, and we can't really afford that in a country that calls itself a democracy. So you've got to bring the money in, and each time I say the way to get it is for the state legislature to close the unfair corporate loopholes, bring in the billions of dollars, $7 billion, identified by nonprofit groups like the Citizens for Tax Justice and others. That could go a long ways to funding the courts, to bringing money for our schools. By the way, the state budget was just put out by the governor and legislators. As you know, that we've got about a $96.4 billion budget they're proposing, which would bring a little bit more money to the K through 12 schools. It would give the poorer schools.
Well, let me interject something here, Professor, sure, if I may, with all respect. Yeah. One of the elements of education that I am an advocate for, and I think is being ignored, community colleges are facing a crisis. And to do what has been suggested by Assemblymember Das Williams, whom I've denounced publicly because of AB 955, which puts a 417% increase in tuitions on courses for kids who may want to just complete their education and move on. I don't think that these are well thought out ideas. We should be encouraging kids to go to community colleges, not discouraging them.
Absolutely. In fact, I teach Cypress College, a community college,
yes,
and the tuitions are already $46 a unit. Imagine having to pay $200 a unit for those who can afford to pay for it, and the rest of the people will be left behind. It's just completely a two-tier system, which is not good for a democracy or for equal opportunity. That's not what America's about, Dave. And also, we are 49th out of 50 states in per-pupil funding K through 12, despite Governor Brown's bringing in a few dollars more. So we've got a long ways to go for K through university education, community colleges, to give our people an opportunity. And until the politicians stop this dollar democracy and bring in the funds from where they rationally know it should be brought in. I mean, why did Facebook pay zero income tax last year while making $1 billion in profits? The corporate tax loophole voted for by the federal and state government.
I would be remiss. Final question. I don't know whether you've had a chance to witness some of the immigration debate, but it seems like the focus now is on the money because there is going to be quite a little nest egg there, $4.5 billion to be divvied up among contractors. Not bad if you're even a Republican who initially said you were against, now you're for it because you want some of that pork to come to your state. Any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I think the Republicans are going to make a quick about turn here, along with other people who are seeing a business opportunity here, and we need to hire people. So that extra money is going to come in handy, and they're going to I think immigration reform is going to pass here pretty soon. The only question is, how strict a requirement will they make as far as guarding those borders or beefing up the borders? I think it's like a red herring. That's not a problem, but yet they're making it a problem, saying they won't allow immigration reform to proceed until we have all kinds of strengthening of the border, which already the border is pretty strong as it is. There have been fewer immigrants in recent years than ever before. Am I right?
Oh, no question about it. In fact, I think there's a negative now. I think more people are.
Negative.
Yeah, more people are headed to the border. Last time I checked, I think Taco Bell finally got it. They're headed to the border.
Right, exactly.
My dear Professor Peter Mathews, pretty soon I'll have to give you your own show, my brother, but thank you. It's always a joy to speak with you. You make me sound intelligent at the din-din table with my family. Have a good evening.
Always uplifting our spirits, Dave. Hang in there.
Thank you very much. All right, coming back in a moment, I have to tell you that, by the way, that Professor Peter Mathews, Cypress College, doing a terrific job. Could California be the first one to ban lead bullets?